It was raining harder than anyone in the city could remember, a cold, relentless downpour that turned streets into rivers and umbrellas into useless shields. Inside one of the most expensive restaurants in town, a place where everything gleamed, from the chandeliers to the silver cutlery, Alexander Hale, a 35-year-old millionaire entrepreneur, sat at a corner table with the kind of impatience that only comes from too many years of getting exactly what you want. He wasn't supposed to be there. Blind dates weren't his thing, but his sister had insisted that he needed to meet someone normal, someone who didn't care about his wealth or his name. So there he was, in a tailored charcoal suit, expensive watch glinting under the soft light, checking the time for what felt like the 100th time. The reservation had been for 7. It was now 7:30. He sighed, deciding to give it 5 more minutes before leaving. That's when the door burst open, and chaos walked in, quite literally. The woman standing there looked like she'd just fought a hurricane and lost. Her clothes were soaked, her hair a mess of wet curls sticking to her face, and mud streaked her coat and shoes. Every head in the restaurant turned, a wave of disapproval rippling through the elegant crowd. The hostess hesitated, unsure if she should even approach. But the woman, flushed, breathless, and visibly mortified, scanned the room, her eyes landing on Alexander's table. And to his absolute disbelief, she started walking toward him. "Mr. Hale?" she asked softly, her voice trembling but polite. I'm Lily Carter. I'm so sorry I'm late." Alexander blinked, momentarily speechless. This was his date? The woman who looked like she'd been dragged through a swamp? For a split second, the old version of him, the perfectionist, the elite, wanted to stand up, make an excuse, and walk away. But then she smiled, a small, nervous, genuine smile that somehow made the room fade around her. "I fell," she blurted out, cheeks reddening. "The taxi dropped me at the wrong corner, and when I tried to run, I slipped into, well, everything." A few diners snickered. Lily looked down, embarrassed. Alexander could have laughed too. He almost did. But instead, something shifted inside him. Maybe it was the way she was trying to hold herself together, drenched and humiliated, or the fact that she still showed up at all when most people would have gone home. He stood, taking off his suit jacket without a word, and gently draped it around her shoulders. "You're freezing," he said quietly. "Sit down before you catch a cold." The waiter's eyes widened, shocked that the famously aloof millionaire was offering his own coat to a woman covered in mud. "I can't," she started, but he interrupted. "You already have, and it's fine." For the first time that night, she smiled again, not the nervous kind, but something warmer, softer. Dinner started awkwardly. Lily kept apologizing, trying to dry herself with napkins while Alexander tried to pretend the stares from other tables didn't bother him. But soon, conversation replaced the discomfort. She told him about her job as a veterinary nurse, about how she spent her days caring for injured animals that others had abandoned. Her eyes lit up as she spoke, passion replacing the earlier embarrassment. Alexander found himself listening, really listening. Something he hadn't done in a long time. Her laugh came easily, her stories were messy and real, and for once he didn't feel like he was being studied or impressed upon. "You're nothing like I expected," he admitted at one point. Lily tilted her head. "What did you expect?" "Someone who'd talk about money or clothes or me," he said. She chuckled. "I barely made it here alive, Mr. Hale. I didn't have time to think about your Forbes profile." That made him laugh, genuinely, freely, and the tension between them finally broke. As dessert arrived, Lily excused herself to the restroom. When she came back, her hair was brushed, her face dry, and though her clothes were still damp, her confidence had returned. Alexander couldn't stop staring. She wasn't the kind of woman who fit his world, not polished, not strategic, not perfectly poised, but there was something magnetic about her, something honest. He realized then that beauty wasn't about presentation, it was about presence. And Lily had that in every breath, every glance. "I think I owe you an apology," he said when she sat down. "For what?" "For judging you before you even spoke." She smiled softly, We all do that sometimes. The difference is, not everyone admits it. The night stretched longer than either expected. When the restaurant finally dimmed its lights, signaling closing time, Alexander walked her out. The rain had stopped, but puddles still shimmered under the streetlights. He offered to call her a cab, but she shook her head. "I think I'll walk. It's peaceful after the storm." He hesitated, then said, "Mind if I join you?" And so they walked, two strangers under a calm night sky, the city around them quiet. They talked about everything and nothing, their laughter echoing down empty streets. For the first time in years, Alexander didn't feel like the man who had to impress. He felt human, flawed, connected, alive. When they reached her street, Lily turned to him. "You know, this wasn't exactly the fairy tale first impression I hoped for." "It was better," he said. "You showed up." She blinked, surprised. "You really mean that?" "I do. I've met hundreds of people who come perfectly dressed and perfectly fake. But tonight, I met someone real." She didn't know what to say. Her cheeks flushed again, and before she could thank him, he took her hand gently. "Next time," he said with a smile, "I'll pick you up myself, rain or shine." As she walked up the steps to her apartment, Alexander stood there watching her disappear behind the door, his coat still around her shoulders. Something inside him stirred, something he hadn't felt in years. Not fascination, not desire. Hope. He turned back toward the street. His reflection caught faintly in a puddle, and realized how strange it was that a woman who'd shown up, covered in mud, had managed to wash away so much of his loneliness. The next morning, he found her message waiting on his phone. "Thank you for not walking away." He smiled as he typed back, "Thank you for walking in." And somewhere between that first text and the days that followed, the blind date that almost didn't happen became the beginning of everything Alexander never knew he was missing. The restaurant's elegant chandeliers glimmered softly above as the scent of roasted truffle risotto filled the air. But when Sarah stumbled in, mud streaking her jeans and hair clinging damply to her face, the room fell silent. The maître, his polished smile faltered. A few diners snickered under their breath. At a corner table, Alexander Graves, a self-made millionaire known for his obsessive perfectionism, checked his watch with a flicker of irritation. This wasn't what he'd expected, not after his assistant had assured him the woman he was meeting was respectable, poised, and charming. Yet, as she stood there, cheeks flushed with embarrassment, mumbling an apology about a broken-down bus and a splashing taxi, something in her voice, that trembling sincerity, made him pause. He had spent years surrounded by flawless people who cared only for image. And here, before him, was someone utterly real, apologizing for imperfection she couldn't control. Against his instincts, he motioned her over. "Sit," he said quietly, ignoring the murmurs around them. Her eyes widened, unsure if he was serious. But when he smiled, a rare, genuine one, she finally exhaled and sat down, her hands shaking slightly as she tucked a muddy strand of hair behind her ear.